Welcome to today's session, The Modern Retail Ecosystem, Experience, Media and the Power of Engagement is its title. Brought here by Rowe. Thank you very much for sponsoring it. And I'm going to introduce our speakers in a moment, but we're going to hear the story really of Dick's Sporting Goods, of Dick's Media Network, of its and Game Changer, and really how the digital retail experience is changing through what they're doing together. Dick's acquired Game Changer in 2016. Since then, it's evolved 10 years ago now. Does it seem like 10 years?
No.
Since then, it's evolved from a basic scorekeeping app into now apparently the world's top youth and family sports platform. And I think one of the interesting things, as the retail landscape has evolved, Dick's Sporting Goods has built a connected ecosystem, and it meets athletes and athletes' families in the moments that matter most. So when I don't know, maybe your young cyclist is buying her first cleat as a cyclist, buying first football boots, soccer boots they've become interchangeable, I think, now, soccer and football. I'm not going to do that English-American thing, but basically it's being there for families as they're kind of becoming athletes and as they're evolving their sporting journey together. Dick's Sporting Goods generally has brought together things like experiential retail destinations with the House of Sport, and obviously the ultra-high engagement digital media with Game Changer. It's creating more personalised and encouraging greater experiences for its users. So we've got some fantastic speakers here. We have Cynthia Kleinbaum-Milner, who's from Game Changer, David Young from Dick's Sporting Goods, and Tony Roller also from Dick's Sporting Goods. I'd just like you to briefly introduce yourself through to the audience and say what you're doing. I started with you, Cynthia, first. Let's kind of carry that journey on.
Sounds good. I oversee marketing, communications and partnerships, and my team is responsible for growing the Game Changer brand, making sure that more parents know about it, use it regularly, and also connecting with other brands that want to get in front of the youth sports parent that comes every weekend to use Game Changer.
And I lead Dick's Media Network, which is really creating connectivity for our vendor partners and other advertisers to reach the sports family, from the sideline to the store.
Hi, I have the privilege of leading experience design at Dick's Sporting Goods, most specifically for the stores. And I think the thing that's exciting about that is not only are we making strategies visible for the athletes, and by the way, you'll hear us, probably the three of us, interchangeably use the word customer or consumer, but we actually call them athletes. But we meet athletes wherever they need product, wherever they need experiences. And it's very interesting to think about physical retail these days and how that connects across all three of the worlds that we're in.
Absolutely.
I love that. Every time I walk into one of your experiential retail, have the retail experience at Dick's, I become an athlete. It's fantastic. I think if only we had them in London, I shall be, next time I'm in New York, I shall be there.
Ooh, don't tempt me with London. Yep. London, Hawaii, those are two I am up for right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, listen, it's that Dick's Media Network that I want to explore the most. I remember the first time I came to Cannes, I think it was something like 2013, 2012. We launched Transform magazine here in 2014, and I remember suddenly realizing, perhaps later than many others, that brands could also be media owners, that that there was this interchangeability, interconnectivity between a brand, between a media, and so on and so forth. So tell me a little bit about Dick's Media Network, David, and really how Dick's Media Network impacts the experience of the athlete. Between the two of you, I think we can kind of cover that.
Absolutely.
Well, the three of you.
So, yeah, it would absolutely be the three of us. So I think I'll start with a quick history lesson. DMN has been in existence since 2022. As retail media has scaled So has DMN as an experience and as an offering that we bring to life. I'd say how we have evolved more recently is in the insights we have about who our athletes are. And if you think about the sports landscape, and if we're being honest, so much of the conversation here at Cannes centers in sport in one way or another. We're often talking about the top 1%, the pro athletes, college athletes. And in reality, sports culture is so much more than that. Youth athletes, everyday practitioners, how you dress, how you live your life. Especially true for those with youth sports athletes in their household. It can become the center of gravity for a life. It is a life stage in which our athletes find themselves. And when we stepped back from what we built with our network, we realized we had something a lot more than just an offering that could drive sell-through, which is still a core value. But we had something that could add value to our athletes' lives because we had this trusted relationship with them. From what we built in Game Changer and helping to accelerate the ability for loved ones across the country to watch a young athlete they care about in the most important game of the week, to what we have in our in-store experience where we are outfitting them not only for the season but for back to school and those little moments in between where you just want to pop in and look at the product. I know I do that. I'm sure others do as well. We have this relationship we can begin to unlock. So when we had that insight, we started to think about our product that we were bringing to market for advertisers with that in mind. So how do we build better partnerships with brands in our space, but also those that are additive to those athletes' lives, and then be able to tell a story that's unique to that individual athlete's experience that bridges the sideline to the store and back. That's really what it is that we're bringing to market today.
Perhaps something you can add to that in terms of from the experience perspective. I'd be keen to hear your take on it.
So it's interesting because Dave's been leading this with a mighty, mighty vision around a retail media network for us. And it's actually only been in the past 18 months where we've started thinking about that integration across all of the channels that we think of in terms of retail media networks, how we actually started to translate that physically into the store. And there's quite a few companies out there that I think do a really, really nice job of that integration. And we felt like it was really important to take that one step further. And so what we wanted to make sure that we did with our in-store experience was it was going to be very authentic to sport, and very authentic to how stories come to life. And so this integration has been a combination of curating stories around product, curating stories around brand, and then also just elevating the experience in terms of perhaps you see the story, but you want to understand the product a little more. And so as we think through this relationship that we have we talk about this, we joke, we kind of co-parent. So when we think about this in terms of the media network and then the experience in the store, it's really a seamless opportunity to also translate physical retail into a media platform, right, and to bring that digital concept to life.
Okay, so from your perspective, we're talking about it from the retail experience. How does Dick's Media Network impact the experience of the athlete on the sidelines or in the locker room?
Sure. Actually, should I explain what Game Changer is?
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if your
Let's
audience,
hear
everybody knows.
Because we don't have it in Europe so
You don't
much.
have it
So
in Europe,
so
yes.
I'm keen. Yet. Okay.
Yet.
Okay. Good.
But Game Changer is basically the digital home for youth sports families. And the reason we say it's the digital home for these families, it's because it's the app they use the most, besides the more utilitarian apps that you use on your phone. When you have a child that plays sports, your life revolves around those sports, and before a game you kind of use Game Changer to manage the logistics. On game day you watch the game on the live stream or can follow it. We have many modalities that allow you to follow the game, and then after the game parents use it to replay the game, to see the performance of their child compared to other games that they had before. And coaches use it to manage the team, to improve the team, to get insights into how they are evolving. And the way people talk about it, it's magic. Like, imagine that you can watch your kids' game with the same almost the same level of quality as an ESPN game, with a scoreboard, on video, with sound that tells you that your kid is about to bat. So because it is used very often, we have the frequency of that relationship, and it's used in very emotional moments. We have the permission to see ourselves as a media company, as not only a retail media, but a media company that brings brands that want to connect with parents that trust us. And because we have the scale, we can participate in this larger ecosystem. We stream close to 200,000 games every weekend.
Every weekend.
Yes.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
And I want to add to that point, because the scale is really important in what we have and what we're streaming in Game Changer. A fun fact for those who know baseball: we collect more stats in innings of baseball in one season than Major League Baseball has done in the entirety of its existence. We have over 2 million teams on that platform. And when you think about the impact this can have, it's important to think about the depth and the importance to identity that youth sports and this platform and this total ecosystem has on everyday athletes. I consider myself much more a soccer dad than I do a customer of my local grocery store. So everyone has data. Not everybody has a gateway to how a consumer sees themselves, how their identity is tied to their purchase behavior. And we can do that in a very authentic way through sports. And the data proves that out. 80% of parents are going to support a brand that promotes their young athlete's team. 90% are going to make at least one purchase decision because it was recommended by the parent of a teammate. So you are getting in on a tribe and a community that no one can touch more authentically than we can within DMN. From what we have in DSG and what we have in Game Changer, it really is a center of gravity to this lifestyle.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. I'm going to come on to data in a moment. I'm blown away by some of the things that you just said just then. But let's come on to the data aspect in a moment. I'd like to focus on pick up on something you mentioned before, which was storytelling. You talked about that, and I think increasingly, we've heard so much of the importance of storytelling now. And I'm just wondering that aspect of that interaction of storytelling and physical product interactions, just kind of carrying on that from that. How has that evolved? Can you talk a little bit about, maybe the past 10 years since the acquisition of Game Changer, how that's changed over the past 10 years?
I was going to let him start, but so it's. And by the way, I have just learned over the course of the past couple of days that I lead everything I say with "that's interesting." I have no idea why that is, so just want to say that out loud. It's all very interesting. It's very interesting. It's funny when you think about storytelling. I think right now, and you heard something from both of my partners in crime, is you heard how important it is to touch people emotionally.
Yes.
There is so much content out there today. It's actually a little overwhelming. And even as we think about personalization, it still can be a lot of information coming to you in unique ways. And so I think that it's so important around what we're trying to do from a Dick's Sporting Goods, and I would say that's kind of, the big headline news is Dick's Sporting Goods. We feel it is so important to connect emotionally with people. And there's no better way to do that than sport. There's no better way to do that through kids. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, product can be relatively utilitarian. Like, you need product. But the interesting thing about it is it's those moments when you start to create memories around the product that is very, very unique. When people are shopping with a child, getting them their cleats, getting them their bat, getting them their first glove, that's a memory. When they are in the store and they are experiencing an opportunity to try it on and perhaps run on a field, engage with turf, hit a bat, that is a very different way of reaching people emotionally. And so, as we think about the storytelling and the connectivity with product, anyone can put product on shelves, anyone can put product online. I don't know that everyone can bring that human connection. And then our ability to pull that all the way through and capture those moments, capture the data, capture the hearts of folks who are inside of our store, and then be able to not only from a prescriptive way of pulling that through to the retail media network, but also taking those really organic moments and creating things that are humanized for people way beyond product.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. I'd like to shift this a little bit, if we could. I mean, you briefly mentioned it there, but what kind of impact has Dick's Media Network had actually on the core Dick's business? How has that impacted? I mean, I presume it's a good news story here coming, judging by the smiles on your faces.
You know, we made a little eye contact. We got happy for just a moment. I do feel like this is your moment of thunder based on what you and your team have been doing. So I want to start with you.
I think it's had a transformative effect in a few different ways. I think being able to partner with Tony and the in-store team and how we're showing up in-store has helped us integrate into the core organization because we speak the language of the store, and that is vital. And being able to have that in-store space, one that is phenomenal and best in class. Your team are artists, and we appreciate the way we're able to bring these stories to life. It's also made retail media or commerce media, whatever you want to call it, more tactile, more real for those who aren't core marketers. But you start to see how our messaging, our storytelling can have an effect in the in-store space, and it almost becomes an analogy for what media can do for the business holistically. On the other side with Game Changer, it's been so formative for our own story in our right to win within everyday sport, which is occurring at a scale that dwarfs anything that is more professional or high level, and I think more formative to individual consumers and to culture at large. And the connection that we have to that community is very real. It's based in utility, it's based in authenticity, and that's what's giving us the building blocks to build a different conversation that we can do for within the media network. And then I think also, hopefully you would all agree, the conversations that we have together about how we're reaching these athletes holistically. Because the ambitions for Dick's Sporting Goods is that we are a sport company. We're not just a retailer. And we connect with our athletes on many different levels across that lifestyle. And I like to believe that what we've built within our offering is helping to tie that story together.
Okay. You talked about how you have that relationship, how important it is and easy it is for brands to feel so connected through Dick's Media Network and more likely to purchase through there. But I'm just wondering if there's a further role, a greater role, and probably one that came about through the acquisition of Game Changer in terms of what it means for families, what it means for the athletes, Dick's Media Network. How is that? How does that manifest?
Yeah, I mean, we feel a great sense of responsibility of getting more kids playing sports, staying in sports, and Game Changer gives you that because of the way it works. Many times parents can't be in two places at once and they miss moments that are very important for their kids. Maybe kids don't stay playing sports because of the logistics involved with in that. So Game Changer brings that expansive role of Dick's to the families, the youth sports families. But what I think, just to build on what you were saying, we're seeing the early days of what this looks like, because what I'm seeing is brands are realizing the benefit of working with us, with Dick's on the stores and online and with Game Changer, and they are realizing that they can take more risks and be more innovative because we are willing to take those risks and be innovative. Many times they ask me, can you show me an example of what this could look like? I can render an example, but this hasn't been done. A lot of what we're doing, it's in the imagination of the marketers and the brands that want to partner with us.
Right.
Okay. So, I don't know how big your team is, but from store to store, how do they do they actually kind of take into effect, think about the network, about Dick's Media Network, as they start to plan experiences, as they start to go down particular activations and so on?
So that's a great question, and I would say on one hand I've got a large and amazing team. On the other hand, I'd say it's not large enough. That's a different discussion. That feels like it goes back to like the CFO discussions from earlier today. But I think as we start to evolve how we think about localization, so there's this unique kind of two sides of a coin. When you have physical retail, you're doing it at scale. But I think great retailers also do it at a very localized level. And we were recently walking with MLB. We were in our Boston House of Sport store, and one of the merchants coined like my favorite phrase. And they said, you know what, when we think about House of Sport, we actually think about this as one of one. And the reason that we think about it as one of one is our ability to tell a story that is very unique to that community. And so with the team, and there's so many examples. So when you think about our Boston House of Sport store, it was lit up in a whole different way for the Boston Marathon. When you think about Miami right now, Miami is seeing a crazy, crazy amount of passion around the World Cup. And I say crazy when the entire globe is crazy and the US is crazy about it, but then Miami, exponentially crazy. And yet you walk right outside the store and you have a partnership that we did with Adidas, and you've got a bodega sitting right outside of the store. And so I could go on and on with examples of where we want to make sure that physically when you walk into the store, it is very, very unique. But we also have this opportunity with this relationship across the retail media network to be hyper localized. And I think for those who have been doing physical retail for any length of time, we all know to be able to activate and respond with a piece of signage takes time. To be able to flip a switch in terms of digital content that then can be pulled across every other platform, that actually is uniquely easy. And so that's another piece of why we're so excited. It ties back to the storytelling, and it ties back to being hyper relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned, you talked about partnerships there, and it made me think of a comment that you'd said earlier, David, which was you don't see yourself as a retail outlet. You're a sports business. And I think we've just seen we've got one of the world's largest sporting activities going on right now. In case you've missed it, the World Cup's on, I'm not sure. And of course, we've seen there that partnerships are incredibly important for that, and they do so much to protect the partnerships that they've had, that they have. How you talked about, partnership, bringing to life a partnership with Adidas. Talk to me about the role that Dick's Media Network can have in a wider broadcast in terms of deepening and strengthening the partnership relationships that you have elsewhere.
Yeah, I think the role that we play in helping to strengthen those partnerships is in tying them into everyday sport, which is at a scale that I think is very similar to what we see in some of these tentpole moments. And I think about what we're doing in Game Changer and in-store specifically. I love that point about community, Tony, because I think there's community at scale here that we can help to create for partners who want to be a champion of sport. We can help them show up differently at a tournament in Kennesaw versus a back-to-school moment at Ross Park in store through Game Changer and what's occurring at those events, and then through the data that we sit on of 77 million athletes across the broader conversation about sport that's occurring digitally every day. And do it in a way that's authentic to how those athletes see themselves. And I think I totally understand why there's so much investment in sport today and the way that it exists. We want to drive reach. We want to drive connection to these emotional moments. It's a little cute, but I've used the phrase, do you want to buy an impression or do you want to make an impression? And I think everyday sport and how the athlete sees themselves is how we make an impression. And that comes from a deeper relationship that we are already fostered through what we built within our audience that we are now enacting for brand partners and partnerships that exist solely in Game Changer, solely in store, but most powerfully across the entire ecosystem that we own.
Okay. Well, listen, I've got one further question. We might have some questions from the audience, but I got a question that I'd like to put to all of you. Really, you're all senior executives in the driving the retail experience. I'd like to know, you've seen Dick's Media Network just change the way that Dick's is working. You've seen it change both in the retail side and on the sidelines in the locker room. Where can it go? Where can it go now? What's, if let's put the sort of the prediction hat on. How can we change things more? Is there more that can be done over the course of the next 5-10 years? I'm going to start. Let's go all the way across from.
I predict that in the next 5 to 10 years, every kid game is gonna be streamed. Most of them are gonna be streamed in Game Changer, and brands will understand that they should be thinking of us as a full funnel media where they can reach the audience, where it's a media that the audience is paying attention in a way that they don't pay attention to others. Really, the way that we say it, which is also cute, is the most important game of the weekend. It's not on ESPN, it's in Game Changer. It's your child. You're not multitasking when your child is about to bat. Mm-hmm. And I think the moments in which we are going to be able to put brands in front of our audience are going to evolve, because the technology is evolving a lot. The way we recognize what just happened on the field, that maybe it just started raining and you are at a game, and what type of advertising we can mm-hmm. put in front of you because of something just happened. Your kid just hit a home run. Maybe a brand wants to participate in that moment. So in 5 to 10 years from now, that's going to be table stakes, and we are going to be seen as a full funnel media company. The way to reach youth sports parents, the way to reach parents.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep the athlete at the center. We're going to widen the aperture in how we create value for them. If anecdotally, this weekend I went to 3 games. I saved for college on the sideline. I determined where I wanted to get my coffee after the first game, and I had an argument with my wife if we needed a bigger car because the kids are getting older. Because of the relationship I have with Dick's, I should be able to create unique value across those categories for my athletes and help them shop for an incremental product in my store. That's what really unlocking that lifestyle means for us. That's where we're headed.
That's a hard question. What I hope would be the answer as you look out 5-10 years from now is Dick's Sporting Goods began as a brick and mortar company where you could buy product. It evolved to be an omni-channel retailer, and then, as we know, the acquisition of Game Changer and then the build of our retail media network has happened over time. I would like to say that we're just getting started. We are literally just getting started, and there will come a day where I genuinely believe that we will be synonymous with sport.
Yes.
Not where you buy your product or how you play, but we are synonymous with sport. I believe that we will be known as a media company. And I believe that when you think about having a relationship with a brand, that relationship will start with us.
Fantastic. Okay, great. I'm just going to turn to the audience now. Does anyone have any questions for our panel? I've got a question there. I'm going to take a microphone there and take it through. You're just going to see the front of me. We're not going to have you on the camera, I'm afraid, but here we go.
That's all right. Hi, everyone. So, Jack Cousins, editor of Transform Magazine. Just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for that talk. It was really interesting. Obviously, Dick's Sporting Goods is an amazing organisation because of the layers of storytelling it's able to offer across physical, digital, with Game Changer as well. But I was just wondering, with that plethora of touch points that you guys have, how do you ensure brand consistency across all of them? And also, how do you ensure that your athletes at the same time don't become overwhelmed by the offering that you have?
I can answer the second question. At least, I think the approach that we have is that the athlete's experience is first and foremost. We would never interrupt your experience. We would never prevent you from watching your kids' game or from RSVPing or from sending a message and force you to watch an ad. We actually believe that bringing the right partners with the right objectives is going to elevate the experience. Just imagine if you're watching your kids' game on your phone and instead of having an ad, an interstitial that you have to cross, you actually see it as a professional game. The brands are appearing on the back as billboards the way that they would appear in a professional game. It almost makes you feel better about having ads, not worse. So we start with the athlete and never let ads interrupt the experience.
Yeah, as far as not watering down a brand message, I think a lot of that comes back to who are we reaching, what spaces make the most sense, because not every activation is the same. If this is more retail focused, we are going to start with the product story and the right athlete we're trying to reach there. If it's more of a brand storytelling message, we will start with the brief. And I think a lot of the capabilities that we've built ensure we condense time to market and creation of that brief, because what I've experienced myself being in advertising for as long as I have, the more channels, the more people involved, the more you can water down and lose that core message. So we've been very mindful about how we've scaled the team, how we've organized the team, and the technology that we've put in place to ensure that we have consistency in that message. I think the bigger challenge is how do you react in real time as results come in, which is the beauty of what we've been building in store and the capabilities we built in Game Changer, that we can use the data and the signals, sales, product engagement, click-through rate, basic view data that we have to make shifts in the creative that's going to show up in any given campaign to ensure we're getting the return on the result that we want.
I'm probably going to give a little bit of a softer answer. I think there are two things that we at Dick's Sporting Goods do incredibly well. I think that we protect the DNA of our brand and the mission of our brand. And then I also think that we put the athlete, and you heard that with Cynthia, like, it's so funny, heard it from you, and that's what I would say, is the athlete is always at the center of what we do. And I think as a culture, we work very closely together to protect the athlete experience and to protect the brand. And I was sharing with someone last night, I was giving you and your team a little love. I was sharing with someone last night at dinner that when retail media networks come to be, it's very easy to be about a transaction. It's very easy to be about sales. We are actually selling a feeling. We are selling emotion. And I don't want anyone to think that there's not measurements. I know there are lots of metrics behind what your team does, but the unity that we have developed around making sure that the story, not only of Dick's, but also the story of the brands, and then the stories for our athletes are highly curated and very thoughtful. And I think when you have those shared visions, athlete first, brand first, and you all hold hands, over time, that ensures that things don't get watered down.
It's fantastic. So thank you very much for telling us the story of Dick's Media Network and what it's doing, Game Changer, and with the retail experiences. Thank you very much, Cynthia Kleiman-Milner. Thank you very much, David Young. And thank you very much, Tony Roller. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.